Hey 5th grade, it's Miss Logan. I am checking in with you guys so that we can complete lesson 45, and the topic is classifying quadrilaterals. The first thing that I want you guys to do is to go ahead and put this in the middle of your note-taking paper because we're going to talk about quadrilaterals today. So the basic definition of quadrilateral is a four-sided shape, and we talked about that in lesson 32. But to go a little bit deeper, we're going to talk about the different classifications of quadrilaterals. So in order to do that, we're going to create a diagram that you can look in your book and see on page 224. On page 224, if you look down the page at letter A, you guys can see the diagram that we're going to draw on our note-taking paper. So, just going back a little bit to lesson 32, we talked about quadrilaterals, which is a four-sided shape. And there are a couple different kinds of those. So I'm going to actually draw a quadrilateral around our sign that says quadrilateral. Go ahead and write that on your notebook paper. And then there are three different classifications of quadrilaterals. So I'm going to draw an angle here, an angle on this side, and an angle right down the middle. So this word here, quadrilateral, means four-sided figure. And we can see that I drew a quadrilateral around it. That's one side, two sides, three sides, four sides. And another type of quadrilateral that we can classify as a parallelogram. Go ahead and write this on this line. Awesome. So that word parallelogram is one that we can remember by this double L that runs straight up and down. The word parallelogram means that the lines of a particular shape are an equal distance apart. I'd like to give you an example of a parallelogram, one that we don't see very often. Just drawing this on our note paper. You guys can see that on this particular parallelogram, if I were to continue these two lines, they are an equal distance apart and they will never intersect. I'll go ahead and erase this for just a second just to show the other two. If I were to continue these two lines, they also would never intersect. So we can call this particular shape a parallelogram. That's a type of example. And I just want to go ahead and write the definition under here too. It is two lines and equal distance apart. And they don't intersect. Make sure you get that down on your notebook paper. In lesson 32, we talked a little bit about trapezoids. That's the next category. So let's go ahead and write this in the middle line. Trapezoids. And what trapezoid means is that this shape has at least two lines that run parallel. I think what I'm going to do for trapezoid is I'm actually going to draw an example of a trapezoid right around this figure here. So you guys can actually see that these two lines here, if we were to continue these lines up and up and up and up, oh no, they're eventually going to intersect, right? However, these two lines that are running this way, they are an equal distance apart, which means that they are running parallel, and that makes this shape a trapezoid. So what I'm going to write under here is that it has two sides that are parallel. And I can always remember this word, what it means by this double L here. So the last shape that we're going to cover is actually one that we haven't talked about this year, and I'm not sure that you guys have ever heard of it before. It is this third category that we're going to write in, and it's called a trapezium. So let's go ahead and write that on our paper. And a trapezium is a shape that has no parallel lines in it. So an example of that, if I'm going to draw a little example around here, is I'm going to draw an angle this way, maybe one up that way, one down, and then one here. You guys can see that If I was to continue these two lines, going down, 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 they would eventually cross over one another. So those aren't quite parallel. And then if I was to continue these two lines going this way, they would eventually intersect or cross over, right? So a trapezium is a shape that has no parallel lines. Now there are many different examples of these. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this shape and draw it around my sign that says parallelogram. You can also see that on page 224 in your book. There are many different examples of these shapes on page 224. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up some flashcards so that you guys are able to study the different types of shapes. So moving on to page 226, you guys may be able to see above figure A, there is a chart that includes a little bit more information down here about several other types of shapes. So one that I want to talk to you guys about is one called a rhombus, and we're going to write that on our paper. Rhombus. I drew a little line to connect it, and rhombus is spelled R-H-O-M-B-U-S. And I'm going to go ahead and draw an example of a rhombus on my paper. You guys can see it down there. And a rhombus is a parallelogram with 4 sides. We also call a rhombus a square. If we were to rotate a little bit this way, we can see that we've got a square there.